Okie dokie, guys. I think I stopped at number 3. Let's see if I can get that right. Okie dokie. So hospital reported the following statistics for September, and then you've got a listing of information here that is going to be super important, that anytime you're presented with a list of information like this, that you move through that information before you jump in and try to figure out what they're asking you to calculate, right? So let's take a minute and go through the table. They give you your census, your admissions, your discharges live, which is important, number of deaths, fetal deaths, and inpatient service days. So we know admissions, discharges, lives. We know we have to come grab the deaths for the total number of discharges. That is a rule. We talked about that in your textbook. That's nothing I can help you with other than you just have to learn that you need to have some kind of red flag go up when you see discharges live that says, that's not the total number of discharges. I have to look for the deaths to have the total. Fetal deaths, which we've talked about again, that is a newborn DOA, or lay term, stillborn, and then number of inpatient service days that have already been calculated for you, which is super nice. So A asks for the inpatient census for midnight on September 30th. I have newborns written over here just in case people calculated it, but please keep in mind that it didn't ask for it. It asked for the inpatient census. When it asks for the inpatient census, it means adults and children. So this figure right here, you're going to start with the census, 140. We're going to add to it 310 admissions, subtract 300 live discharges, subtract 15 deaths, because remember these two make the total number of discharges, and you should arrive at 135. So at midnight on September 30th, you should find 135 heads in the bed. Those are people sleeping in your facility that are accounted for at that point. B and C ask for the average daily inpatient census, and remember that it's back to your formula. It's the number of inpatient service days over number of days in the period. So for adults and children, it is 4,236 divided by 30, because there are 30 days in September, and rounding to a whole number would be 141. And your average daily newborn census, you're going to take the number of inpatient service days for newborns, divide it by number of days in the period, and you should have rounded to 14. Okay, so now we're on page 56, number 8. That's the best way that I can orient you to where we are. So 3 clinical units recorded the following information for April. And you see I've written myself a couple of notes. I'm reminding myself that the worksheet asked to calculate to whole numbers, and that April has 30 days. So I can go ahead and get started with that. But in this table again, since we do have a table, let's take a look what they're asking for. So for each clinical unit, we've got a bed count, a census, admissions, live discharges, grab the deaths for totals, and the number of inpatient service days. A asks for the census for April 30th for each clinical unit. So we're going to start with the beginning census. We're not going to mess with the bed count. You can even just scratch off the bed count right now because we don't need it. So the beginning census, 15, we're going to add to it the number of admissions in urology, 62, subtract 59 discharges, and then subtract live discharges, subtract 1 death for 17. And you're going to repeat that. You see how I have these symbols written here. You're going to repeat that for every column. So urology, ENT, ophthalmology. That's how I have my answers listed. Inpatient service day total for the 3 units. Well, they gave you the total for each unit. All you have to do is just add those together, right? You should come out with 1,526. So I added these 3 inpatient service day totals together. Average daily inpatient census for each unit. Remember, that's our formula. It's the number of inpatient service days over number of days in the period. So for urology, we have 501 inpatient service days over 30 days in the period for 17. And then that's repeated for ENT, 418 inpatient service days over 30, number of days in the period, for 14. And for ophthalmology, you had 607 inpatient service days over 30 days in the period for 20. All right, so number 9 says a 65-bed hospital recorded the following data for May. And by day, you have the number of inpatient service days. And so you can already kind of see what I've done. I went ahead and calculated the totals for each of the columns because, it's going to ask for that later on. But this kind of gives you an idea about how I set myself up. So A asks for the inpatient service day for May the 20th. It's super easy. You go to May 20th, you find that there are 55 inpatient service days. There's your answer. Inpatient service day total, May 21 through 31. It happens to be this last column over here on the side. So there are 660 days if you did the math right. Average daily inpatient census for that column, you're going to take the 660 and divide it by, and this is a frequently missed area, right? Number of days in the period. If you used 31, that was wrong because that's the total number of days in May, not the number of days in the period under consideration. So hopefully you used 11 and not 31. But if you use 31, you probably won't ever do it again now that you've done it once, hopefully. Total inpatient service days for the month of May, again, total the columns and add them up. And then hopefully, if you got the total right, 1,712, you're able to calculate the inpatient service days for the month of May divided by 31 days, 55. So that's the end of the worksheets. I hope you found that helpful, and I'll talk to you later.